Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
Welcome, everyone, to Morning Magazine for this May 19th, 2021. You have your host, James J. Malouf, here. At 10:30 today, we're going to get an update from our friends over at Lakeland University. Right now, joining us, Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Shane Blaser, along with our friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. We say hi to Kevin, the gang over there, and we say good morning to our mayor. Good morning.
Good morning, James.
How you doing?
I'm well, and you?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Appreciate having you in today. Thanks so much for joining us, Mayor. We got a bunch of different things we're going to get into today, but I wanted to start with, we've been reading your proclamations, and I thank you for all of these. I thank you for doing these. I think they're always vital. They're always important, but in today's day and age, I think they matter even more. Each one of them and the subject matter that they cover is important. Where I wanted to start, though, was how you go about doing something like this. I thought it'd be kind of interesting for us to kind of hear the logistics of making a proclamation and writing this and everything, because they're very well written, for one, but they also they seem like there's kind of like a blueprint sort of for it.
Yeah, there is. So proclamations usually come about because we see something, myself and my assistant Emily, we see it might be this week, or whatever this week is. And it seems like May seems to be a lot of proclamations.
Yeah.
And I'm always worried because there's so many things you want to highlight that I'm worried I'm going to forget something. So, there's going to be another one coming out on EMS. It's an EMS week. And so it's just trying to keep up with what week it is, and you don't want to miss one, or because they're all important, because that's why we have them. And so my assistant Emily puts together the wording, and we talk about it and review it, and then sign them and send them out for the media.
Yeah, it's great work by Emily and you. Not only are they well written and everything, but I feel like they're each one of the, like for this week, it's National Police Week. The month wise, it's National Mental Health Awareness Month. Yep. I mean, these are all important things and stuff that we can never highlight enough, but giving us an opportunity to be able to kind of do that, just take a moment to. You bring up a great point. There are a billion causes out there, and every one of them are vitally important. You and I could spend a half an hour talking about each one of them and run out of time. So with that, it's nice it's good to be able to take these moments to, hey, we're going to highlight mental health this month. Hey, we're going to highlight our police force this week. That sort of thing. It just gives us a moment it doesn't like take our minds away from necessarily other things, but it gives us an opportunity to kind of highlight something for a while, for a week, and give some appreciation for it. I feel like these become even more important after the past year we had, where we've so many industries we've come to appreciate that we didn't appreciate it enough. Certain things like that. I think for me, and I know a number of our listeners out there, there are organizations that we never really gave enough attention to and thought enough about. So having these kind of proclamations kind of help with that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Without Emily and her writing skills, it'd be a challenge. She does a very good job for me there.
Can I bower her? Can I?
I always encourage her to pursue any interest she has. So, if you need some help, you can give her a call. But
sounds good. It's really good writing. As a writer, I admire that stuff, and it's also frustrating to me because I wish I was that good.
She makes it way too easy. I'd spend all day trying to get the right wording, but she does it really quick.
You've spent your days also touring lately. You've been doing some touring.
Yeah, I was out at MidState for a meeting, and I got a short tour, and myself and Kyle, our community development director, are going to go back for a more in-depth tour. But we took a short tour around some of the more towards the cosmetology wing, and got to see some of that, and the remodeling that had gone out there. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of hair now, but when I was a child, I experienced many perms out at MidState. And I'll picture this guy with no hair with a perm.
I'm doing it right now. Yeah,
it could be traumatic, and it's good. You're gonna be laughing about that one all day. But I went there, and I was amazed at how the remodeling, how up to date it is, and those students out there, they have a regular cosmetology open where they, it's hard now to try to find real people to work on. And so, they're always looking for people looking to come in and get haircuts, and but they also have a nail program there, and like a I haven't had any, but pedicure and manicures.
Yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah, so they offer those programs there, and what a great opportunity for us locally to be able to help out students. So I was really impressed with that program out there, and I won't be going back for a perm anytime soon. But and then I learned that they're starting a culinary program out there. So the people that like to cook in the area will have an opportunity to maybe take a class, or for the younger people to get a degree or
I'm so glad you brought that up, especially to encourage people to use some of the services over there and everything. You're not only supporting local but helping the future really, and these kids that are learning and trying to get better at their craft and those sorts of things. It is a really noteworthy thing, too, what's going on over at MidState. I had a class over there last year and was teaching while some of this was going on. And when I'd have a break or when I was leaving, I went the long way to leave just so I could go past the cosmetology. It's so cool to some of the things that they've been doing over there. And any opportunity we can bring up MidState, I encourage people to, whether you want to pursue a new career or you want to just take some classes that you've always wanted to take or something, they're just waiting for you over there at MidState.
Yeah, and I hope in the near future that the state and the UW system will recognize the value of MidState and their program and allow 100% transfer of their credits into the four-year university, because that's not happening as readily now. It will help with Lakeland and some of them that are making that possible, but a direct transfer from our MidState programs to our UW system, I think, is very important for all of us.
100% agree with you, and I feel like, I don't want to assume anything, but I feel like as we go more forward, that's going to happen more. I think just out of necessity, almost, if anything. Some of these universities, most of these universities out there are seeing a drop in attendance because they're seeing a rise in tech schools. They're seeing a rise in smaller schooling and that kind of thing. So I feel like they're going to have to do that just to survive in some ways, but they should do it just in general. Knowledge is knowledge.
Right, and I think about myself. I started at a two-year center, and it wasn't a tech school, but it was through UW system. But it's the same concept. And once I got to that, I graduated high school. I wasn't a stellar student, but once I got into post high school education, that's where I kind of buckled down and realized, well, this is kind of for real here.
Yeah, me too.
And the same thing at MidState. They have great programs out there if you want to take advantage of one of their programs and enter the workforce. But there are those students out there that aren't sure what they want to do, and then they get there, they have success, and they want to go on for more, and they should be able to directly transfer their credits to the UW system, which I think would benefit the UW system.
I think, that's the other part of this to me, too, why I don't understand why it hasn't happened sooner, is it's a win-win for both sides. That's a good point, and I do hope that does happen a lot sooner.
Yeah, and then today I'm going to head out to Metallica this afternoon, and I've toured that operation prior to it opening as they were constructing it, so I'm really looking forward to going in and seeing that process and seeing how they do that, what they do out there.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I know how that's coming about too. I grew up in construction, so I find that just anything to do with that world interesting, especially when it comes to local stuff. So, and wishing them great. I hope it's going well over there and everything. As long as we kind of touching a little bit about infrastructure and construction and that kind of thing, how is it going with all the street closings? Orange cone season, how's that been going for the city?
We have a rock star crew out on our road construction team, and they're doing amazing work. And so they're bouncing through projects. They're working right down here on Jefferson Street. They started that, and they're finishing up on another one. And so they're kind of in a transitional period between those two. And our biggest project that we have going on this year is down here on 18th Avenue from Grand all the way down almost to the zoo. So, that distance of road is about what we almost do in a full construction season. So,
wow.
So they are, but we have a team out there that has a lot of experience, and they're going to plow through it. And I keep saying my concern is we're going to get near the end of construction season, and they're going to have capacity to do more work. So. We have to find that balance there, but a great team out there.
A really good team. You hit it on the head. They're rock stars. They really are. But they're not indestructible. So I want to remind people to take a little more time when they're out and about. These things are going on. It's not. We have a nice sized community, but it's not that big. You know that where there's construction being done, leave a little early if you need to. Take your time. Keep an eye out for these people doing some important work for us. Our infrastructure is so vital, so important, and they're just trying to keep that better. They're just trying to make that better.
And that seems to be a lot of chief complaints are potholes and rough rides and those type of things. And this is, we have a finite season where we can try to work on some of those things. And I look at my neighborhood. They've come through and they've fixed all the catch basins for the stormwater. And so that's kind of a good indicator that they're going to be coming through with the pea gravel next.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's catch basins. If you see catch basins going on in a neighborhood, usually sometime in that just summertime, you're going to see the road maintenance pea gravel happen, which helps extend the life of the roads.
And when it comes to those roads, I know one of the things that comes up also, especially this time of year, is overnight parking. That can be, it's not common knowledge for many people of what the rules are when it comes to that, the laws are when it comes to that. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of go over that just a little bit for people.
Yeah, most communities have some type of overnight parking, especially in college communities. Sometimes it's seasonal, depends on the season, depends on the parking. And we've had transition in parking through, I guess, my course in government. We've had no overnight parking. Now we're at alternate side parking. And it can be challenging because it goes by the date, even date and odd date, but you have to remember the date after midnight changes. So that's the timing. And so last night at City Council, there was further discussion and in our Public Works Committee about maybe eliminating overnight parking, revisiting that. There are people interested in that. I favor it myself, at least seasonally, during the winter, continue with alternate side parking. I remember that's the way it was when I was in college. And then during the summer months, not have overnight parking. But, the biggest concern is the potential junk vehicles or unoperable vehicles left on the roadway and parts and up on jack stands. And so we want to kind of, address that and eliminate that. But there'll be further discussions coming up at probably at our Public Works Committee meetings to decide on that.
You touched on it a little bit. I think we understand the pros of being able to do that and everything, but are those the main cons when it comes to having overnight parking?
Yeah, that could be, that's one of the main cons is somebody parking a vehicle in front of my house and leaving it there for a week.
Yeah.
I may not appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I hope that doesn't happen.
Well, and that's one of those things that probably if it does happen, not that common. So it's certainly noteworthy, but it's not too much of a worry. What I think of certainly in the winter months and everything is you're asleep at 4 a.m. when the plows are going by and your vehicle's out there and they can't do their job, that sort of thing.
And that's we used to when we had no overnight parking. That's when we did our street sweeping. So that was a very good argument why we don't have overnight parking. But we don't usually do that now at night.
So is there research that goes into something like this? Is this one of those things that you guys have to really dive into the logistics of, or is this just more of a conversation?
Yeah, so a lot of times when these ideas come about, and also there's been talk about UTV traffic, and so what happens is, the city staff will research, they'll get opinions from the police department, from city staff, and that will be compiled together in a document and taken to city council. So they at least have a starting point, or, some points are pointed out that maybe they didn't think of, and hopefully that'll spark a great conversation among the council members. And, they listen to their constituents and the public, and they have to make a decision based on that.
When it comes to the roads and all this, we're kind of our theme so far of the show today. Not that we intended, but this is how it's turning out. This is how it is when we and I get together. It's awesome. I wanted to get into some of the transportation utility, some of that and everything.
Yeah. So at our last, or even at council last night, the Public Works Committee, along with the Committee of the Whole, which is made up of all the city council members, they heard a presentation on a near finished model of what a transportation utility could look like. And so that's being finished up now, and hopefully next month's meeting they'll have more of a complete model of what that would look like. And it's based on trips. So if I leave my house, it's one trip. If I go to the grocery store, that's a trip there. And it's based on classification of businesses, based on how many trips. It's like the stormwater. It's based on the size of impervious surface that you have in your parking lot or driveway. And so there's an engineering firm that's working on that, along with a financial firm. And it's there's a small amount of pushback, concerned about, nonprofits and churches and small businesses. And so when that completed model gets done, then it needs to be taken a serious look at what that could mean for those classes of businesses. But churches or nonprofits are not exempt from special assessments. And and special assessments are really what kind of drove changing this. And nonprofits are not exempt from that. So they are also charged the same special assessments as I am as a private homeowner. So this does affect those properties, and it's very important to look at and seeing what that cost could be for those properties. And so once we get that completed model, then we can figure out roughly, depending on how much you want to fund, what a yearly cost would be. It could be a couple bucks a year. We just don't know.
And when you get that research, looking forward to getting into more of that, going into some of those numbers. And I'm curious myself about that, because it kind of leads me to something that I thought about a lot as a teenager, and I haven't thought much about since, but recently it's been coming up a bit in conversations with friends and community members and that. And the idea of having a public transportation, the idea of having a bus line or something like that in this area, I don't know if to say it would need it. I don't know how useful it would be. I'm not sure, but I am curious. I do think that some research on something like that would be, worthy, would be worthwhile to do.
I know there was a discussion at one time, as being looked at several years ago, a system between Point, Marshfield, and Rapids.
Yes.
Bella,
I remember that.
Yeah, and so it just, I don't know. I was a clerk at the time, so I wasn't really directly involved in it. So I don't know what became of that, but it was a discussion. And
I don't know. I don't know honestly off the top of my head if it's something that would be a waste of time and money, or if it be one of those things. Wow, why weren't we doing this sooner? That kind of thing. I do feel like it's worth diving into more, especially again this past year, and so many people, whether they've had to, they've lost a vehicle or they've lost a job or just income going down, and that being a reasonable way of transportation for people.
And you think about how mobile we are. How many people live here and work elsewhere, and vice versa. And so that type of system, I think would have some benefits. If there's multiple drop-offs. And
I don't know. It's one of those things that has to even out. It has to, the cost has to, benefits and everything. But
that extra nap on the way to work.
I do kind of like that idea. Yeah, you sold me on that part right there. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Forget about all the data and everything. You had me at the nap. We unfortunately, hopefully, one of these days when we get together, we won't have to talk about masks or anything like that. But we that always is going to come up. And I know that it's certainly something that while I haven't heard from our audience or anything, I know that the audience out there is kind of curious about some of these things. For you, when it comes to this stuff, I know you a bit, and I know that you do your homework and you do your research, and you've got your staff doing it and everything, and you take different opinions and stuff. But it's got to also be you've got to be in a similar situation like a lot of us, where it's just kind of enough. Like we're so sick of being back and forth about all these things, but. Where are we right now as far as the city goes, as far as mask mandates and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the city no longer has a mask mandate, so it's optional. It's optional in the city buildings. It's optional for city employees. If you feel comfortable and want to wear a mask, we highly encourage it. If you choose not to, we respect that also. And so, I think that's kind of been put to rest, at least from my point, as in city buildings. There are greater discussions, and maybe it's not appropriate for me to get into it on here, but the biggest debate right now is going on in our schools. There's active groups out there. You're seeing it around the state that some smaller school districts are eliminating or going to an optional mask, and our school board recently chose to continue requiring our students. But there's a group out there that, you can find doctors going both ways. I attended last school board meeting and I was late, but I was able to hear some of the parents and family, and they present a well thought out argument why it should be optional. And so nobody's on the same page, even between doctors, teachers. There's students out there that would rather not wear a mask, and there's students out there that prefer to wear a mask. And trying to find that balance. And I respect the professionals, the doctors, but chiropractors, but they all have a different opinion. So it's, at what point is enough is I don't know what that answer is, because like I said, we can go out and find research on both sides. And
it's a frustrating thing for everybody, including those doctors and those scientists and everything, because they more than just as much as us, they're citizens, they're community members just like us, and they want to have legit answers. They want to have black and white answers, and we're dealing with a subject that has no black and white answer, that we're finding out more and more every day because this is brand new. If we were talking about the flu or the Spanish flu or something that had been around for hundreds of years, it'd be a little different. With something like this, we're not going to get the answers we want. And I feel like we all kind of have to, as adults, kind of accept that. And we all want a yes or no answer. We're not going to get that. So we have to do personal by personal kind of, responsibility, that sort of thing. I do want to say, make a note, though, that whether, you said before you said that whether you have a right to say it or not and everything, and whether you do as a mayor or not, that's teach their own opinion. You're a parent. You have an absolute right to say something as a parent, I feel. I feel like this is the group of people that we're not doing enough paying attention to and answering their questions. Right. I understand that you got crazy parents out there, that you have your helicopter parents or whatever, that sort of thing and stuff. But 9 out of 10, more parents out of not are just worried. They're just, they have questions and they just want them answered. And when you don't get maybe the answer, the yes or no answer, it can be confusing. But this is the job of being an adult so that we can set an example for our kids here and everything. And whatever that example is that you want to set, that's your business. That's you and your families. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other to go with it. But you do have to always remember, we are, whether you like it or not, you are a role model. You don't get to be Charles Barkley. I'm not a role model. That's not how this works. Right. Kids are going to look up to who they're going to look up to. They don't. And part of what we have to do is show some camaraderie here. We're not going to be able to do that as a society, because everybody's got different sets of opinions and things. But we do look to our leadership to kind of set examples, to kind of set the tone, if you will, and that sort of thing. So when you're in a position like this and everything, I imagine it's got to be difficult, but I appreciate the honesty of it too. That you're the reality of it. We don't have enough of that with people. Too many people get into politics to get their name out there, or to be like a B celebrity or something like that. We've even got some of that, not in our art city here, but locally in the central Wisconsin area. And I appreciate so much that in Rapids here, we've got a guy who is here to do a job. I love having you on the air. I think you're very good on the air, but I appreciate that's what you care more about, getting the job done. Yeah,
if it wasn't for Kevin, I have a face for radio. So, I am a parent and I have kids and they're tired of the masks, and and I have to support them also, and as a parent, and I may be the mayor, but first and foremost, I'll always be a parent now, and so I have to support them and their choices. And I think all these parents are, and they're trying to advocate for their children because they know their children the best. And, unfortunately, our school district also, they're there trying to advocate for all the children. And so, they're also hearing from the people that want kids in masks. And they may not be loud locally or go to school boards advocating for that, but I'm sure they're hearing it. But I guess as a parent, I'm ready to let my child not have to wear a mask if they choose not to wear a mask.
And if you feel the opposite of that or what have you,
right.
Just having some understanding. The idea, when I talk about an example, when I talk about being role models and these sorts of things, it's so much about, we all know kids. Kids are viewing and taking in more than we ever realize. It's not just when we think they're paying attention. They're paying attention even when we don't realize it. So when you have your opinion, I have mine, and we're having a discussion about it. Not having a discussion that involves raising your voice to a 20 and insulting each other every 5 seconds. Right. Is that how you want your kid to act? No. So, just listen to each other, and you walk out of that conversation, maybe no minds are changed or anything, but you showed your kid or anybody who's watching, even other adults, this is the way you treat each other. Yeah. We have different opinions. Yep. We can go our separate ways, and our days are perfectly fine otherwise.
Exactly. And I was so impressed. There's a group of young adults, and I can't remember all 4 of their names, so I won't say any of them, but they are students at Lincoln High School that got involved, started a petition with their classmates, and that's what it's all about, and it's very impressive to see these young adults handle themselves the way they've handled themselves through this process, and they've done some interviews, and they've spoken about, and they're passionate about it, and they have great family support, and that's what it's about, and
it's part of what this country is founded on. Is not so much voicing the causes that are important to you. It's literally something we've done in this country since we got here.
Everybody talks about the youth, and some of the negative things they do, but boy, we've got some great youth out there also that are working positively and trying to represent their peers. And I look at these young people that have done that, and they're our future, or they're our future leaders. And I'm just I cannot say how impressed I am with them.
Every day we end our shows with a good story of the day, and 9 out of 10 of them involve teenagers or little kids. I mean, they're acting more like adults than some adults out there.
Exactly.
They're really setting a good example, and we appreciate that.
Very impressive.
Well said, Mayor. Thank you so much for the time. As always, we appreciate you. Keep up the great work and stay safe and strong out there. And looking forward to talking again next month.
Look forward to it, too.
And a big thank you to Kevin, our friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media as well. We'll be back with more Morning Magazine right here on AM 1320 WFHR.